So in a shortest form, it's just a pre-recording of everything. It is the predestining and the writing down of everything that you and I are about to do. From this you can understand and appreciate perhaps that there will be sensitivities around this topic. Reason being that it is difficult to understand. If it was the other way around, it wouldn't be so difficult. That a person does an action and then we say that it is written down that he did on this date, he did such and such action. He does the action first, then it's written down. That wouldn't be contentious at all and that wouldn't be hard to understand. But here we see the opposite happening. That it's been written down first and then the action actually takes place. So for this reason people do sometimes get confused. People do ask that the whole issue of taqdeer and qadr, does it mean that we are just like a stone or we are just like a feather in the wind, that all we are doing is carrying out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will? That in essence we are just like actors really in a play for which the script has already been written. That we are going to say this and we are going to say that at this moment in time. So it is a very difficult subject to understand. And for this reason you will see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His compassion and His mercy, He has not made it incumbent upon you and I to have a very deep and detailed understanding of taqdeer. That He has lifted that burden away from us. Rather, as the Prophet ﷺ said himself, that all you have to do is believe that it is from Allah. The good of it, the bad of it. The actual inner workings of it. The small detail of how taqdeer actually works and what it actually entails, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not made that compulsory upon us. And what you will see that the early Muslims, that a lot of them, the likes of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and when he was a caliph, he actually prohibited people from speaking about qadr at all. That he didn't want people to go down this road in the first place. And he would prohibit such type of discussions. Why? Because he knew it would lead to fitna. It is an issue which people would not readily understand. And this is not the only issue in Islam which we are told not to actually go into in much detail because of how detailed the subject area is. For example, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about the ruh, when He talks about the soul, He says that قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. That people will ask you about the soul, about the ruh of a person. Well, the truth is that this is the matter of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You haven't been told too much about it, because you will never understand the whole idea of a ruh. That this an eternal substance that lives within you, that you cannot touch, you cannot feel, and you cannot locate it biologically in your body. Where is it? But you know it's there. Where that ruh is when you have a dream, where that ruh is when you die. All of these kind of things a person won't be able to understand fully. So what has Allah said? He said that you are not responsible for it. And qadr is rather like that. All you have to do is believe in it. The actual workings of it are not necessarily incumbent upon you. Having said that we should not discuss this issue in detail, it is unfortunate that in early Islam there were certain groups that formed, certain firqe that actually came about purely on the issue of qadr. And in detail we'll talk about two early groups that actually formed in early Islam in the first 150 years. And their stance and their position was purely based on this whole issue of taqdeer. The first one is Jabariyah. Jabariyah was an early sect in Islam, and they had the belief that man is compelled and completely constrained. The word Jabr itself, if you understand what Jabr is, you'll understand where they are coming from. Jabr in Arabic means to force something. In Urdu sometimes we use a similar word, we say majboor. Main is kam pe majboor hoon, meaning I have to do it. That's exactly where the word comes from, Jabr. So Jabariyah means those people who believe in Jabr. So what they basically believe is that man is constrained and he is compelled. That whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already written, that's exactly what He's going to do. Man has little choice in that now. He has no freedom in that force. So he is rather like a feather in the wind, a mere stone, that whatever Allah has decided for him, that exactly is what's going to happen. The problem with this And why this is considered as an extremist view in Islam? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted free will to everyone, to every human. That will to perform good, that will to perform bad. And if this freedom was not granted, then what was the whole purpose of sending prophets and messengers? What is the whole purpose of having Jannat and Jahannam? That the whole purpose of a test and this whole purpose of the reward of the test, or the punishment of it in the form of Jahannam, is that you have given some autonomy and freedom, that you can do good, you can do bad. But if a person is already pre-programmed by Allah that you are going to do this, you are going to do that, and that person has no say in it whatsoever, then there was no purpose in sending all the Anbiya Karam and sending all the Rusuls. That we are completely programmed. So this belief then, it shows us no better than normal stones and rocks, in that we are compelled. And to show the shallowness of this belief, there's a very famous story, Aqeedah, with Imam Jalaluddin Rumi, the great Sufi mystic poet. He tells a story in his works that there was a person who had Jabariya beliefs. He had these beliefs. He was once walking by and he felt hungry. And so he saw a garden nearby, a private garden, and he wandered into that garden without permission. There he saw some fruits and he saw some grapes, and he began to eat the grapes. He began to take from the fruits. While he was eating, the owner turned up. And he saw that this man, without his permission, had come into his garden and he began to eat his grapes. So he said to him that, how dare you? You come into my private property and then you have the audacity to start eating grapes from my own garden. Listen to the answer that the Jabariya person gave. He said that without the permission of Allah, no leaf or no grape can come into existence. This is Allah's garden. I am Allah's servant, and I am eating with God's permission and command. I have no choice in this. That go and ask Allah as to why He is making these grapes. So he took no responsibility himself, really. And he said, look, it's Allah, go and ask Allah. That why are you blaming me for this? In response to this, the owner, what he did, he took this person and he tied him up. He tied up his feet and he tied up his legs, and he took a stick and he began beating the life out of him. And then when he was doing that, obviously he screamed and he was in agony and said, what are you doing to me? And listen to the answer from the owner. He said that, look, just like you, I am also compelled and constrained. This is God's stick. This is Allah's stick. And with God's permission, these sticks are falling upon me. And I have no choice in this whatsoever. And then from this episode, this man, he actually he turned back to the Ahl Sunnah belief, and he actually done tawbah from his heretical beliefs. And you can see the problems with this kind of position. That if you have this belief that, look, we're just small chess pieces in a game that has already been played out in heavens, then it leads to apathy. It leads to laziness. You won't work hard in anything. You'll just shrug your shoulders and say, oh, this is the decision of Allah. It'll be like a job interview. Like when you go to a job interview and you already know in advance that you're not going to get it, because you have heard from somewhere that X person is going to get the job out of a short list of 10, 15 people. If you already know that this person is going to get the job and you're actually competing for that, how hard will you work to prepare for that job interview? You won't put no effort in. You probably won't turn up to that job interview because you know it's already been done. And this same story, after mentioning it, Imam Jalaluddin Rumi, he says that if you throw a stone at a dog, then the dog will attack the dog won't attack the stone, he'll attack you. Why? Because even the dog knows that the stone is constrained and has no free will. That the free will came from you in throwing it. So from this, that if you cannot differentiate, and if you cannot appreciate the difference between a human and a stone, then you're no better than a dog. So this position has been clearly refuted by common sense. This whole idea that we are totally helpless, it does not make sense, and it does not fit in with this idea that this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one extreme, the Jabariyya. On the other hand, there's another extreme group which formed in early Islam, mainly in the first Islamic century. The Qadariyya was a group which was formed, came about the first views was aired by a person called Ma'bad al-Juhani. He lived in the time of Hassan Basri, a great scholar who was originally a Mu'tazila and then came to the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Ma'bad al-Juhani, later he was executed and he was put on the cross for his extremist views. What was his opinion? The exact opposite of the Jabariyah. Whereas the Jabariyah before were saying that a man is completely compelled and constrained, the Qadariyah go to the other extreme and say that man has complete autonomy. He has complete freedom. That he can do whatever he wills. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's choice in this, or his assistance in that, is very, very limited. So you can see they've gone to the other extreme, and you can see from a common sense point of view why this is wrong. Why is it wrong? Because only Allah has complete autonomy and freedom. فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does whatever He intends. That complete freedom, that complete independence, and that autonomy belongs to Allah alone, nobody else.